they have put into preparing this conference. I know from my own experience how much hard work it is to put up such an event, so thank you very much for doing all this. I would also like to thank all the sponsors that have made this conference possible. As this is a very young and growing community, the sponsoring is very important for us to enable us to do things and to create attention and to create knowledge on service design. So thanks for the sponsors. So I would like to have about 45 minutes with you on service design. The claim of my introduction is good design is innovative. Those of you that are designers might have read that before. It's a quote from Dieter Rams, and Dieter Rams is, I would say, one of the most famous German designers, and he is virtually with me on stage today to introduce you to the value of service design. In preparing for today's keynote, I looked at the Korean economy, and I have to say, looking at Korean economy is like looking at a collection of superlatives. The data I collected about Korea are very, very impressive. It's the world's 8th largest export country. And I mean, looking at the size of Korea, you have to say this is overwhelming. That this small country can be the world's 8th largest export country of the world. And it's the world's largest shipbuilder. It's the 5th largest automobile manufacturer. It's Asia's largest oil exporter. The world's highest internet connectivity. So we can go on and on and on. Korea is a leading economy of the world. You are all very well aware of it. For me, it was again amazing to look at this. And it's a very diverse economy, from shipbuilding to computer ships, from internet connectivity to steel making. So it's a broad variety of industries that you have and that are very successful. There is one thing that is common between all these diverse economies, industries, and it is the fact that they are all based and rooted in the product and technology paradigm. So all the successful industries of Korea are based on products and technology. And you share this paradigm with most of the industrial nations of the world. So I would say that all over the world, the product and technology paradigm has been very strong throughout the last centuries. Most of you might know Charlie Chaplin, and I like this little movie because it shows the paradigm on production technologies, on improvement of production means, on improvement of standardization, improvement of quality control, improvement of qualification of people for being most efficient and effective in producing material goods. So this has been the paradigm for centuries all over the world, focusing on efficiency and effectiveness of products and technology. But what is happening today? Today, most of the leading economies all over the world are facing a paradigm change, and so is Korea. Jae-wook, the president of the Korea Institute for International Economic Policy, says that the major industries of Korea today are not likely to be the major industries of tomorrow. While doing its best to maintain its competitiveness for material, for the manufacturing sector, Korea should prepare to launch itself into the future with new growth engines such as green industries and the service sector. So today Korea is facing a huge paradigm change. You have to maintain your success in the manufacturing industries and at the same time prepare for new growth engines, for the green industries, for example, and for the service sector. So in order to achieve this change, in order to be successful in this paradigm change, there is a recommendation to focus on growth driven by creativity and innovation, instead of increasing the factor inputs, the materialized inputs. So what does that mean to focus on creativity and innovation? For me, it means that the Korean economy is going to focus on innovation by design. Design has been a driving force for innovation throughout the last decades in the product world. Tim Brown, whom you might know from being the founding president of IDEO, Tim Brown has said, design is a discipline that uses the designer's sensibility and methods to match people's needs with what is technologically feasible and what is viable business strategy. So it can convert into customer value and market opportunity, which means that design is the discipline that bridges needs and expectations of users with market opportunities and profitability for companies. This has been true for the manufacturing economy. Design has made a big contribution to this bridge. I mentioned Dieter Rams. This is him. He's a bit younger then. But he is like the leading figure of design in Germany. And in the 50s of the last century, he has been the chief of design with Braun, and he has integrated the different aspects of design in the Braun product portfolio. So he has created corporate design. He has made sure that every communication is designed, that every interface of every product is designed, that every packaging is designed. And the strategy that Dieter Rams has introduced to Braun is today very common with most manufacturing companies. I would say that design is an integral component of success in the producing industries today. So Dieter Rams has also made some very fundamental statements on how to use design in order to be successful. One of his basic rules is to say, good design makes a product useful. So if you design a product, you should focus on usability and functionality. Design is not about making things fancy and pretty and decorative. It's about the use and the functionality. So what if we would translate this rule of Dieter Rams into today's challenges? It might say that good design makes a service useful. A service should be useful and it should satisfy all the functional criteria that you have towards it. Dieter Rams has also said that good design is about aesthetics. Our products are with us every day and they affect our well-being. So the aesthetic of a product should be designed very carefully to make sure that our well-being is enhanced by good design and the aesthetics of good design. So if we translate this into service industries, of course, good design is aesthetic. And the aesthetic quality of a service is integral to its usefulness because the services we use every day affect our person and our well-being. So today we should design the aesthetics of service. Dieter Rams says good design makes a product understandable. So it clarifies the product structure and it makes the product talk and self-explanatory. So of course, good design makes a service understandable. So we know how to use the service and make the service self-explanatory. So we know how to get the best use and pleasure out of the service. So we can go on and on. We can translate the rules of Dieter Rams, like good design is honest. It helps us understand what the product does and does not fake. It does not pretend the product is something that it is not. So good design for service should make sure that a service is innovative and does not pretend to be something that it is not. Good design is as little design as possible. Of course, when we design services, we use design, but we leave as much as possible to the natural and essential aspects. We do not make it more chic and more fancy than it needs to be. Back to purity, back to simplicity. Good design is long-lasting, so we try to create products that have the ability to age, and we have to create services that have the ability to grow old with the user, that we call in German Patina, that create the ability to have traces of aging, traces of relationship. And good design is innovative. It uses technology in order to innovate constantly. This has been true for products, and it is also true for services. We have to use technologies in order to constantly innovate the services that we bring to the market. So I have tried to take some of the basic rules of Dieter Rams that he has applied to products and translate them for the application to services. And I think it makes clear that it is very easy to translate the rules of product design to immaterial products. Today, the challenges of economy make it necessary to focus on the design of services. And service design, when I started in 1995, was zero. There was no knowledge about service design at all. I was a professor at Cole International School of Design, as Yongse had said, and I said it must be possible to translate design thinking and design methodology to service innovation. And I started to play around. I worked with the students and tried to create innovative services. And I brought for you one example of a very, very early work that the students did in a class. The challenge for the students was to innovate a dental service. So the students of my class started to look at the market in Cologne. What kind of dental services are available? And they found lots of dentists. Many dentists that served the needs of patients in different ways. But what the students did not find was a dental service that would focus on the needs of children. So the students said, this is a gap in the market. We have to create an innovative service that fulfills the needs of children when they have to go to the dentist. So they created a strategic focus on children. They created a corporate identity for a dentist based on Birgit. This is a little toothbrush and the good ghost that helps children to be aware of brushing their teeth. And then they started to create the customer journey for children. They tried to create all the different touch points from the children's perspective, so that the children would, know, this is my dentist. And they would create opening hours that would fit to the needs of children and parents, and enable them to go to the dentist in the evening when the parents have time, or on Saturday mornings. They created all these evidences like little appointment cards where the children would be addressed. They created relationship tools and approaches to change the children's behavior. This is, for example, a little booklet to collect bonus points based on stories that Birgit would tell. So the children would get a little bonus point for each time they visit the dentist, telling stories about Birgit and brushing teeth. They created feedback systems so that the children would be enabled to give feedback to the doctor and improve the services on a constant basis. And they really stepped into the customer's shoes. This is very hard to recognize, but you can see here the reception desk of the dentist. And the students said, if we really want to focus on children, we need to build little stairs that enable the children to step up these stairs and be on an eye-to-eye level with the receptionist. So this was like a little finger exercise that took only a couple of days for the student to go through. But I think it shows very nicely how the application of design thinking and design methodology can bring innovative services to market. That was about, I would say 15 years ago that the students did this little exercise, and since then lots of things have happened. There was zero knowledge on service design in 1995. If Google had existed at that time, and I would have typed service design as a search in Google, there would have been zero results. I did the Google search a couple of days ago. Today, you will have 1,440,000,000 results if you look for service design. So it has been an incredible growth since these early days. And since then, many, many companies all over the world have started to apply service design to their projects. Many of them have even hired service designers. They have built departments of service design within their companies. So we have seen an amazing development throughout these last years. And we have started to build the theoretical framework, definitions, terminology. This is one very basic definition of service design that you might already be familiar with. Service design is about the application of design thinking and design methodology to services in order to create services that are useful, usable, and desirable from the user perspective, and at the same time are profitable and different from the provider perspective. So as I said earlier, design is about bridging the needs of users and the needs of business. We have created processes for service design. This is a very, very rough overview where we say that services design is about exploration of the needs of different stakeholders, exploration about the market, and it then moves into a phase of ideation and creation, where out-of-the-box thinking, where creativity is fostered to create concepts and prototypes of services. It then moves into a reflection phase where prototypes are tested, evaluated, where cost and profit calculations are done, and then moves into implementation. So this is a very rough overview of the service design process. And in order to give you a bit more understanding of how it is applied into a practical world, I've brought two examples. One example from the United Kingdom, done by LiveWork, a very famous service design company located in London and in Denmark. They worked with the Sunderland City Council in the UK on the topic of long-term unemployment. The Sunderland region has a very high percentage of long-term unemployment, and they wanted to use service design as a means to really change the system of support. So LiveWork went and did a very intense analysis of existing offers for long-term unemployment, and they found that very, very, very many offers already existed in training, in financial support, in consultancy. But all those existing offers were not at all connected to each other. So it was different offers, and the people, the unemployed people, would have no overview and no one face to the customer support. So LiveWork brought together all the stakeholders involved in providing services for unemployment, and made workshops, facilitated different activities with the stakeholders to create a shared understanding what the real needs of long-term unemployed people are. So these kind of like stakeholder activities are a crucial part of the service design process to identify all the different actors within a system and bring them together, create shared objectives and shared processes. Then LiveWork made the deep dive. they worked with the unemployed people to learn what the life of the unemployed is like. They started to understand where the pain points are and where the big obstacles are to get back into work. And what Live Work did find out is that the problem is not only about work, that the problem for long-term unemployed people often is about health issues. Often alcohol and drugs play an important role and create a big obstacle to get back into work. Social issues like divorce, problems with the children stand in the way between the long-term unemployed and getting back to a regular life. And then, of course, competencies, qualification issues. So this deep dive really helped to understand that it is about wellness, about stability of the social context, about capability, different issues that need to be tackled if you want to bring long-term unemployed people back into work. So then they started to build a project blueprint where they said we need a project, a service project that creates awareness and helps people to get into a really closely monitored system of support. And they created storyboards of what a future solution for unemployment could look like, where the long-term unemployed could, for example, volunteer for temporary work, or where they would get prescriptions to create capabilities for work. In the end, the system of Live Work was implemented in Sunderland, and it created savings of £430,000, savings for the government, where they would not have to invest into different agencies around the topic anymore, but have one solid solution that is interconnected. So this is the service design project in the UK that was implemented about 1.5 years ago and very successfully in the public service sector. I have brought one more project to you, which is now in the health sector. And it's also about creating savings and creating benefit for the user. This is a project I did last year and this year, and it's focused on the topic of malnutrition. Malnutrition is a really critical issue for elderly people. Elderly people tend to not eat very much and very good, especially if they live alone, which is in Europe a big issue, that old people are not living with their families, but they live alone. So if you look at the situation today, 80% of all elderly people that come to a hospital for surgery have malnutrition. This is amazing. 80% of those people that come to a hospital have not eaten in a good way, they are too thin, they have an unbalanced health situation. The curation of those people lasts more than twice as long, and the mortality is significantly higher. There are already offerings of extra nutrition for those people, but they are not very well accepted and they don't work very well. And money is an extremely important factor in the health system. There is no money to be invested in these kind of additional offerings. So I was invited by a hospital and a caterer, a specialized caterer on hospital food, to develop a system to improve the situation of malnutrition in hospitals. We did field research. We did a lot of observational studies in hospitals, focused on existing services for malnutrition. And this is, for example, a drink that is given to elderly people when they come to the hospital. It has lots and lots of extra vitamins and stuff, but it is, forgotten in the aisle. It is there, but people do not give it to the user. This is the menu card where the elderly people can order additional food. It is done in a very, very bad way. It has a lack of information, and it is not helpful for the staff, for the nurses. This is how the food is served to the people at the bed. It is very unattractive and does not create appetite at all. And when it's done, the evaluation of what the people have really eaten is very bad. The staff and the nurses do not know at all what individual patients have consumed, so they cannot monitor the individual development. I'm sorry for the quality of the pictures, but I cannot help it here. So after this field research, we created additional objectives to say that we have that we are in the B2B business segment. And if we create a solution, it has to be, it has to give an additional USP to the caterer who provides this service for hospitals. We have to create an attractive and transparent solution for patients and families that has a long-term effect not only in the hospital situation. We have to make it very easy for the nurses and the doctors to apply the system and to evaluate the effects, and there has to be extra effects for doctors. So what we created is a technological solution based on a patient's registration system that already exists today. So today in the new service solution, the patient is evaluated on his nutrition situation, and this is done on a computer screen. If there is diagnosis of malnutrition on the registration of the patient is given a tablet PC, where he has access to food that is individually designed for his health situation. The patient is enabled to order the additional food online. The patient is enabled to give feedback on the consumption of his food online. And there is edutainment programs on this tablet that help the patient to understand about the importance of nutrition for his individual health situation. So this is the packaging, how the tablet PC is given to the patient in the hospital. And this is how the drinks are now served to the patient in the hospital in a more attractive way. We have created a service blueprint where the whole system is visualized, so we know exactly what are the different steps between the registration, the kitchen, the patient's room, the nurses, and the doctors. And we have created a special access for the staff, especially for the nutrition assistants, where they would get training and an access code, statistics about the health situation and the consumption of food. What is interesting about this solution is that our service design team in the very beginning thought that we would train the nurses and the staff to have more attention to the patient, to spend more time with the patient at the bedside, to feed the patient. But we found out that it is absolutely impossible to do this because there is no money within the system. So at that point, we refocused the whole project on a purely technological solution that enables a lot of self-service within the hospital situation. And this has been implemented in a couple of hospitals now for a test phase, and it's running very successfully. It is saving a lot of costs for the hospital, and it's improving the nutrition situation for the patients. You have overviews of statistics. Yeah. So this is a completely different service design project. And well, it shows that service design is very much about strategy. If you want to do a good service design, you have to develop a clear service strategy. You have to take a very holistic view at the user experience from the very first moment that a problem appears until the problem is really solved. You have to look at systems, and you have to analyze systems in a very intense way, very exploratory way. It is a very interdisciplinary approach. You have to involve many different disciplines in order to create good solutions. It has to be co-creative. You involve users and other stakeholders in the creation of solutions. It is, of course, creative. It has to do with out-of-the-box thinking, with radical innovation, and it is very visual. So the service design approach is about creating mock-ups and prototypes and storyboards and journeys that help to imagine solutions that do not yet exist, but to envision them. Service design is rooted very deeply in design competencies. It is design-based, but service design is at the same time very much business-oriented. It has to connect very strongly to business objectives and opportunities. So this is what service design is about. And when I started to teach service design, we were very much focused on interfaces. We started to do customer journeys and do innovative touch points and evidences. We created those mock-ups and prototypes, so we designed interfaces. Then we moved on the system level, where we would look at front stage and backstage, where we would do service blueprints and understand the needs of the whole system, not only the user perspective. And today, many service design agencies are trying to move on that strategic level, where service design is an integral part of the business strategy of companies. If you would ask me today for recommendations for Korea, I would think there is 3 very important things that should happen. I think that service design needs to be integrated in education, not only education of designers, but also the education of business managers and engineers, because only if they understand about the importance of systematically designing services, you will achieve a fast paradigm change in Korea. So I would say try to bring service design education into the design education, but also into business and engineering education. My second recommendation to Korea would be to have more of a policy making for service design. I think there is a natural change, but this natural change towards service industries can be speed up if you have policies and governmental support for change. So if government has initiatives and research support for service innovation and service design, it will definitely help to speed up the change. And my last recommendation would be for companies to systematically integrate service design into your organizations, to start having service design teams that really have the opportunity to radically innovate services and to have a holistic view on service design. So these would be like the 3 main recommendations. I like this statement of Tim Brown. He said, there is a natural evolution from design doing to design thinking, and it reflects the growing recognition on the part of today's business leaders that design has become too important to be left to designers. In the International Service Design Network, we have a very nice mix of business representatives, design agencies, and academic researchers. We have about 400 full members of the Service Design Network, and it's about an equal share of business, design, and academy. It is a network that tries to push service design knowledge into this world, and you can join, you can sign in for free for the Service Design newsletter. You can sign in for Touchpoint, the International Journal of Service Design, which is also available here. So this gives you the status of research and practice in service design. And of course, you're welcome to also join international conferences, like for example in Paris in October, where we'll have the next International Service Design Conference. So service design is a growing field, it is innovative, and it brings innovation to your economy, and I hope that Korea will successfully move into the implementation of service design. Thank you very much for your attention.
소비자가 있는 소비재 중심의 산업에서 서비스 디자인이 획기적으로 적용이 되고 있는데 혹시 헤비 인더스트리나 아니면 인프라 서포트 비즈니스에 관계되는 그런 부분들을 어떻게 서비스 디자인을 접목을 해야 될지 혹시 접목한 해외 사례가 있으면 소개를 좀 부탁을 드리겠습니다.
So his question is most of your examples are on the other side of the industry, but he would like to know if there is the example for service design applied to those the heavy machinery industries, where particularly the B2B issue is important. So could you share some of your understanding about that world of the service design?
Yeah. I think that the heavy industries are facing an enormous change because they have to stop seeing products as simply materialized solutions, but they have to look at the solution as a combination of products and services. In Germany, for example, we see that the huge printer and printer machine industries, Heidelberger Druck, for example, they have stopped looking at their machines and they have started to look at the use that the companies make from these machines. So they do not sell machines anymore. It's leasing concepts. They do not do repair as a reactive thing. They do proactive repair. They do not deliver machines anymore. They take the whole printing business from companies. So you see many indications for a radical change of those companies that in the past were selling B2B machines in now providing business solutions for their clients.
So what you would like to know is there any specific way to approach that product services systems design?
Well, for one thing, it has to be embraced as a strategic issue for the company. I think only if the company management says we want to clearly understand where opportunities for a solution-oriented business is, only then can you be successful. And that means implementing innovation teams for this topic that can do market research, user research, and that have the opportunity to develop innovative solutions and test them on the market. I think there is a big lack of research and development and a big lack of testing of these innovative service solution opportunities. And this is where the old business has to invest.
However, in the end of your presentation, you mentioned about education, about the designers to understand engineering sector and business sector in the meantime. However, becoming a good designer is not easy to understand. And as a designer, should we specialize or study more about business sector, or we collaborate with a businessman in the field?
I think as a designer today, you have to learn the way your business partners think. And you have to be able to have an eye-to-eye communication if you do not want to be the deliverer of a graphic or interface solutions. So you have to learn as a designer about business. At the same time, business is learning about design. And I think that today there is a great opportunity to build interdisciplinary teams between business managers and design thinkers. Because the awareness of business for the benefits of design has grown, and the awareness of design for the needs of business is growing.